Okay, so I did turn the mics off, and we'll go ahead and get started. This, of course, is making bracket changes. So this is kind of one of those real critical pieces to running a tournament. As we all know, the bracketing is a huge, very important piece. And sometimes you get a kid on the wrong bracket. Maybe somebody pulls out late or has to change weights or something like that. And those things are pretty easy to do in track wrestling, but we want to run through kind of some pretty straightforward ways to go ahead and do that. So making changes on the fly in terms of adding, deleting, or moving a wrestler is a pretty important skill to have. So that's what we're going to cover today. So I just want to show you the tournament that we're working in. I'm working in an open tournament, but these steps would be very similar, if not identical, in a predefined, a little different, of course, in vertically paired, but there's a whole different set of courses that we'll be doing more springtime for that sort of thing. But I have groups, at a bunch of groups that are here, and I added this changes group right here. And then what I did was in that changes group, I just block bracketed, looks like 14 weights there, 3- and 4-man brackets. But again, the be a whole lot different. So those processes would not be a whole lot different if you were using a line bracket or something like this. These happen to be round robin brackets. And then if I go to my bout schedule, I just want to show you what else I did. Actually, I'll go to mats. So I assigned these, I created those brackets, and I added 2 mats called changes 1 and changes 2. And then I assigned just these to these 2 changes mats. So that's kind of how the tournament's set up. And if I go to my bout schedule, and I just filter for those mats. So if I look at changes 1, I numbered those starting with 701 on down the line. And then changes 2, I started with 801. And so again, just kind of a brief overview as to how I've set this up. Yours, of course, will look different than that, but that's just to kind of give you a heads up as to what we got going on in this tournament. So the first thing we're going to do is run into the situation where you need to delete a wrestler off a bracket. So again, the situation would arise where you've built your brackets like I have, and then somebody comes up and the kid either isn't there, wasn't there, maybe he went home or something like that. So there's a couple ways that you can handle that. And the example that we're going to be using is that, I haven't started my tournament yet, so there's no bouts that have been run. And that fact right there will probably help you determine as to how you. So in this case, there are no bouts that have run. And so sometimes the easiest way to remove a wrestler from the bracket is really not to remove them at all, but just to change their name to forfeit. To do that rather than having to, rebuild your brackets and things like that. And so all I would do on that case is, let's say that I went to one of my brackets here. I go to groups and divisions. I go into this changes group. And let's say that in this 51 to 52 bracket, this kid called, I actually renamed him a while back, it looks like, when I was practicing, but I could go ahead and change this wrestler's name to forfeit or maybe buy or something like that. And then I would actually probably remove his team too, just so that doesn't show up. And if I save that, and then now if I come in here and I look at this bracket, you see that I just changed his name. And if I view that bracket, now everybody knows that they're going to get a forfeit, and I would just, enter the result as such there. So that's sometimes an easy, quick way to handle that. When I don't want to rebuild, I'm just going to let these guys get their other 3 matches. So that's one way that I could do that. If I did want to delete the wrestler altogether, I definitely could do that. And so then I would either come back to my bracket and click on him, or of course I could go into my wrestlers page and search for him. But once I find him, I could just click on him. And then from here I could just delete him. So again, if I wanted to delete him completely, I would just delete the participant. I would be prompted to type delete. And when I do that, I'm going to get this box, and you're going to see that this pops up in most of the situations that we're going to be going through. So whether I'm deleting them, adding them, changing a weight class, this is kind of our prompt to kind of help you. You can just answer some questions, and the brackets should get handled accordingly. And so reading the text here is important on this one. It says this wrestler is being removed from a bracket that's already been created. Of course, we knew that. But how would you like to handle this situation? I could change the bracket type if needed, and I'll say yes. I forgot to show you this, but I have like 3, 4, and I think 5-man round robins in here. But this question will relate to any bracket types that you have selected, any bracket types that you have available for your tournament. Do I want to replace the wrestler with a bye? In some cases, I might want to do that, so I'd select yes. And I'm not going to redraw or shift anybody. So redrawing would relate to seeding and things like that. You can play around with that on the testing site. I'm not going to cover that too much here. Typically, you're going to just be kind of leaving people where they are and throwing a bye in, or maybe rebuilding on a new bracket. And I'm not going to shift anybody either. Again, those are related to the seeding. And then the other point here that gets made, and I'll cover this in this one, but on the rest of them we go through, these are going to be real similar. But I'd want to check on the bout schedule and then reprint brackets and bouts that were affected by this change. So it may affect one bracket, it could affect a whole mat. In my case, it is going to affect a whole mat, so I would reprint. But I'll show you that in just a minute. So all I need to do is click finish. If I'm sure, I'm going to type finish. And then now you'll see that I only have my 3 wrestlers here, and if I come to this bracket, it moved it to a 3-man round robin. Okay. What you will notice here is that the bout numbers got removed from here. So remember, these were, I think I was on changes 1, so I think these started with 701, but they do get removed once you rebuild a bracket. So what I would want to do is go back and reapply the number scheme. So I'll show you what happens there. If I go to my bout schedule, I rebuilt this bracket on changes 1, that's my mat, and you'll notice that these got changed, and it kind of gets bumped down here because on a 3-man round robin, I don't have that one going right away. But all I would do then is I would come to number schemes, and I would apply that changes 1 number scheme, because that's the one that I have for this entire mat, and I would apply the selected scheme. There's a couple of questions that you'll answer here too. Do I want to leave the frozen status as it is right now? That would be if you hadn't applied the number scheme at all. But in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unfreeze the existing bout. So I haven't started my tournament. I'm okay with renumbering everything and reprinting everything. So I'm going to unfreeze. I'll show you an example of when you would freeze existing bouts probably in just a minute here. But I'm going to unfreeze because I want to get everything numbered right on the money. So I'm going to unfreeze, continue, and then I type apply. And then now if I come to my bout schedule and I go to my changes 1 mat, you'll see that I think it was this 51 to 52 bout right, or this bracket. So right there, they got renumbered, renumbered everything starting with 701 and went right on down the line. So the bout schedule, the bout numbers get updated, and the bout schedule, of course, will look as you would want it to look. So again, up to you as to how you want to handle the bout numbers. Personal preference, if you have a little time, you don't mind reprinting. I would say if you haven't started yet, just renumber and reprint everything. But again, a little bit of personal preference there. So that's how you could handle a situation where a wrestler needs to be deleted from a built bracket. The next thing that might come up is if I need to add a wrestler. And so I would come back. So let's say, Johnny, he comes up and he was late getting here. So I'm going to come back to groups and divisions, and I go to changes. And let's say that he comes, and let's say he's a 51 pounder. We'll just keep working with this same bracket. It was a 4-man round robin. When I rebuilt it, went to a 3. Now we're going to say this, we got a kid that shows up, and I'm going to look at his weight. He weighs 51. We're going to say, oh, he fits perfectly in this bracket. So it's a little bit of kind of looking at, giving the eyeball test and see, kind of where you want it. But I'm going to put him right in this one. And what I would do is I would add him as a participant because I need him in the tournament. So I would go to my on-site reg. So I come into registration, come to on-site reg. In predefined tournaments, it's going to be a little bit different. Of course, you would go to the wrestlers page and add a participant. But however you're entering wrestlers, you would do it here. And I think you saw this guy before, but he was running late. So I'm going to add him as running late. He's going into the changes group. I'm going to select the weight class that I want to put him in, and I could put him in any one, but again, because you fit right here, I'm going to put him in that 51 to 52. I don't know, I'll just pick a team. Maybe he's from that team, and then I could register him. If I wanted other information about that wrestler, I could put it in. I don't really need it for my scenario here, and I'm going to register him. And again, a similar question box pops up. Says you're adding this wrestler to a bracket that's been created. How do I want to handle it? I could do it manually, and basically I would just go in and place that wrestler on the bracket. But I want to do it automatically just to show you how the system kind of operates. I am going to change the bracket type if needed. Again, in our situation here, I think we've already seeing that this is going to change to a 4-man round robin, which is just fine with me. Bracket placement, he's not going to get a seed. We're just going to redraw, throw him in there wherever he fits. I'm actually not going to redraw anybody. I'm just going to kind of let the system just kind of do its thing. Go finish, type finish. And these steps are scary the first few times you do it. Believe me, we understand that because you're making changes to brackets that have already been built. But the system does work quite well. So a little practice on the testing site is always a great idea there. And so then if I come back and I look at this bracket, so I just want to look at my groups and divisions again. Now you'll see that I have my 4 wrestlers in this bracket, and it changed it again to a 4-man round robin. What you will also notice, I can show this from the bout schedule, and you of course will anticipate this, but my bout numbers again got taken out of there. So you'll look at this first one again, and you'll note that this now as a 4-man is going to go first, whereas my 3-mans were coming a little bit later. But I don't have bout numbers there, so of course I'd want to come back in and renumber them. And again, really easy to do. And I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to select this changes 1. I'm going to apply the selected scheme. Again, tournament hasn't started, so I'm going to unfreeze everything and start right from the beginning, and I would go apply. And then now, again, as I look at my bout schedule, and I come over to my particular mat that I'm working with, you'll see that those got numbered again. So I would print again. I might reprint bout sheets if I needed to, but certainly the brackets probably just update the bout numbers there. So so that's kind of the way that would take place. So if I were to do that again, let me just I'll show you how to freeze the existing in the next example. So I think that's probably a realistic expectation that if I haven't started wrestling, that I'd probably want to just keep the bout numbers or renumber everything and start from scratch. So I'll show you one here now. And I'll use the example of a wrestler now is in the wrong weight class. And we're going to say that the tournament's already started because inevitably that's probably when you're going to find this out. But I'm going to come over into operations, and I'm actually going to come in and enter bouts. And I'm going to go to my next mat. So I'm going to go to my 800 mat. I'm going to go 801 to, let's say, 805. So I'm just going to enter a few bout results. So let's say the tournament just got started. And I can do this from operations in my left menu on the testing site. But if I come into my bout schedule just to kind of show you where we're at, and I go to this changes to mat, I entered, I guess, 5 bouts from these. So I went through, entered 5 bouts there just to kind of see, to show you that the tournament already started. In this case, I'm already realizing that I probably don't want to renumber everything because that's going to mess up these bouts that have already gone. You probably also have bouts out on the mat. And so I want to come back in here and I want to take a look at my groups and division. And I'm going to go to one of these that are on mat 2. So changes on mat 2. So I'm going to take a look here and I'm going to find a place. So let's say that in this last weight class, this 99 to 99, we're going to say that this is right now a 3-man, but I actually got the kid on the wrong bracket. Could be he had the wrong weight. Could be, you know, maybe he's wrestling a guy from the same team and you don't want that. Whatever the case might be. So I'm going to just move him from this 99 down 1 bracket, okay? So I'm going to take this 99 to 99, I'm open him up, and let's say that this Wills, or Saxon Wills, I'm going to click on him, and then just like how I added a participant, I'm just going to change his weight class. So I'm going to come here tonight, the weight class, going to select a different weight class, and then save him. And so now you see you get the same kind of dialogue, only there's a little bit more to it because we're really, in this case, affecting 2 different weight classes, 2 different brackets. The first set here under the first blue line should look familiar. I am going to change the bracket type if I need to. I'm just going to replace the wrestler with a bye from the one that he's being removed from, and I'm not going to redraw or reshift anyone. I'm going to make it real simple. In the bracket that I'm adding him to, I'm going to do that automatically and change it if needed. And then I'm going to come and type finish. So you'll see that this bracket, if I come back to weight classes, you'll see now that this one that I removed him from is a 2-man, and that went to a 2-man best of 3, again, because I had that bracket type selected. And my new bracket is a 4-man round robin. And so that's going to kind of quickly move him from, you know, one place to the next. It is going to change, again, the bracket type. And so I would also want to go ahead and reapply my number scheme, because if I looked at either one of these brackets, if I open them, you'll get this dash that shows us we don't have bout numbers anymore. And that's opening slowly. For some reason, I can't get that open. But anyway, I can show you from the bout schedule. Sorry about that. That's my connection here, I'm sure. If I go to the bout schedule again and go to changes 2, you'll notice that I have these question marks again for those brackets that I just changed. In this case, I don't think it'd be a good idea to renumber everything. I would probably mess more things up than I would do good. So I come to number schemes again. That's just mat 2 that I need to renumber, and I would check that on my mats page. And I'm just going to apply the selected schemes here. In this case, I'm going to freeze the existing bout numbers because I don't want to renumber everything. I'm just going to renumber those 2 that got changed. And I go continue, and I apply. And then now if I come back to my bout schedule, I want to show you a couple of things. First and foremost, you'll see that now everything has a bout number. But if I look at this 99 bracket right here, so if I look at this 99, you'll see that I go from 809, and this might be hard to see on the testing site. Yeah, it's right behind that. I go from 809 to 812, and you'll also notice that I repeated 812. So when you freeze existing bouts, there are cases where you're going to possibly skip a bout number or even duplicate one. The system's going to try and plug those numbers in, but because you either add or delete matches, it doesn't always work out that way. Usually not a big deal. Having a repeated bout number, a skip bout number, usually doesn't show many or cause many issues, but it is something for you to be aware of. And you might have those questions from parents, but again, in that case, still probably a better scenario than to renumber everything and possibly renumber bouts that have already been run. So that's how you go ahead and change a weight class of a wrestler. I think we covered both freezing and unfreezing. The other thing that you want to be able to do is to make manual changes on a bracket. So let's say, and I'm just going to pick any bracket here. So let's take this one. It wouldn't matter which one we're using. But if I open this bracket, let's say that I just don't like the order that these guys are wrestling in on this one. Maybe there's a certain match I want to see at the end. And let's just say that I want Paul to wrestle Cody in the second round. Or I'm sorry, Jordan. I want Jordan to wrestle Cody in the second round. And I want Jordan to wrestle Mason in the last round. I can just click on this. So I'm going to change him and have him wrestle Cody right here. So I'm just going to click on the bout number. And Paul, I think I said I wanted him to wrestle Cody. I just use this drop down, select the right wrestler, and type change. And that updates here. But you'll also notice that now I have this bout kind of duplicated. I would just, of course, come to the last bout. And instead of Cody, I think it was Mason. I would change who I want to wrestle there. Type change, and then now I've got those rearranged. You will notice in this case that it doesn't change the bout numbers. We're really not changing anything other than the participants in that match. So I wouldn't have to reprint, or I shouldn't say that. I would have to reprint probably because that's going to be a different matchup for those wrestlers. But the bout numbers, I wouldn't have to reapply any number schemes at that point. So those are the basic ways how to make changes to brackets after they've already been built. Most applications you can do using one of those methods, and the truth is making changes regardless of kind of what the situation would be, is a very similar process. So basically you're just putting the wrestlers where you want them, let the system ask you those questions, you answer them how you're going to how you want your tournament to run, and then possibly numbering from there. So at this point, I think what I'll do is open this back up. You guys probably have some questions. I do know that one of you has to get going because of another obligation, and that's just fine too. Okay, so the mics are back open, and I'm happy to answer some questions if you have it. Matt, I know you had to get going, so if you need to take off, thanks for joining again, and just let me know if you have other questions. Do we have anybody still there? Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Hey, were you going to cover seating changes?
Seating changes, meaning like?
Well, like a seated wrestler doesn't make weight.
So that would be more probably related to the seating and seating, but we can cover that real quick. Well, let's do this, just because it doesn't necessarily fit right into this video. Let's, if there's other questions that are related exactly to this, I'll cover those, and then I'll just shut the recording down, and we can go through that after, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Are there any other questions I can cover? Okay, I think what I'll do then, again, I'll stick around for a little bit, folks. I'm just going to shut that recording down for the video purpose, and then I'll cover that question that just came up.